Good evening. Good evening. Sorry, Coach Smith is a little late trying to do some things, but I'm live now. This is Coach Smith with Love the Game 24/7 coming to you live podcast. I know I'm normally here by 7:30. A little late this evening, but I'm here. Finally made it. So I'm live on my YouTube, uh, Facebook, and also I'm live on Instagram. On Love the Game 247 on Instagram. So, guys, stay plugged in with Coach Smith. Thank you for being patient. I'm here. We're here. I'm glad to have you. Absolutely glad to have you.
Are you ready?
I know that's what I feel like right now. I got to laugh. So, yes, I appreciate you guys joining me here live on YouTube. I won't be too long tonight. Um, our topic for tonight is top reasons why you don't have a sports scholarship in your sport. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. But before we get into that, I want to ask you guys to please be sure, if you are watching this live or you're watching this later on, the recording when I post it, please be sure in the bottom left corner on YouTube that you subscribe to Love the Game 24/7 with Coach Smith in the bottom left of your screen. Well, left to me, but right to you, the right side of the screen. As you're facing your computer, you should see that red subscribe button on YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button and be sure you start following Love the Game 24/7 about recruiting, athletic recruiting, sports recruiting for college. For all you middle school and high school students, and be sure you share it with your friends. Also, if you're on Facebook, be sure to follow me or like me on Facebook. Be sure to follow me on Love the Game 24/7 as well. Follow me there. I need to try to hit up some of my folks um, on my other Instagram because sometimes they uh, don't know that I'm live because I moved over to the Love the Game 24/7 um, for in 2024 as I announced that I would be doing that. So love for you guys to um, just be patient here with me and we'll get some things going. Um, but yeah, excited for you guys, but be sure to like and follow Coach Smith would Love the Game 24/7. I got some good news and everything that's coming up as we get ready to approach the Super Bowl uh, week. I'm going to be going live every day next week, starting on Tuesday, and I want you guys to be sure you be here. I'm going to have some special guests, some NFL players, and I will be having Jeff Smith II, which is my son. So you guys don't think I'm lying or giving you not telling the truth. But yes, my son, Jeff Smith II, with the Arizona Cardinals, will be joining us. I'll give more information uh, on my probably on my Saturday or when I go live on Tuesday. But they will be here. I'll have Jeff, and then I'll also have Lucas Dennis, who is also like a son of mine. Him and my son were roommates at Boston College, um, and he's with the Atlanta Falcons. And my partner, my direct partner, Garrett Blair with GMB Management Group, that represents both my son and Lucas Dennis and several other guys that are going to be in the UFL as well as the CFL, Pro Football Leagues, that he represents. He'll probably be joining me as well next week as we build up to the Super Bowl festivities on Sunday. So I'm going to have special guest Jeff Smith II with the Arizona Cardinals and Lucas Dennis of the Atlanta Falcons, part of the GMB Management Group sports agency family. And they'll come and share their experience about going through the recruiting process when they were in high school. And I'll probably, in the chat, maybe pull some questions out If you guys, I know you have some great questions. So they'll be joining um, between Thursday and Saturday of next week, building up to the Super Bowl. So I'll have you some NFL guys here, live and in color, joining me. That will probably be on Zoom. So I will put out my Zoom link. If I can get my Instagram on my desktop working right, I'm going to do that. Um, and I'll be working on that all week. And if you guys, just bear with me, I'll get this um, stuff squared away, and we'll get moving, and so I hope you guys tune in and tell some of your friends that there will be some NFL guests on the show next week on Love the Game 24/7 podcast with Coach Smith. I will have my son and Lucas Dennis, both of the NFL, representing their respective teams, and so I'm excited about that. So I'll be getting with those guys this weekend to schedule what day they want to be on. But I will be going live, and I will be having some more information about the 10-week digital course for you guys to uh, purchase that. And I'll give more information and give them a discount, you know, all those great things. And so definitely want you guys to be a part of that. So be sure you share with friends. Be sure to um, like and share. Also, like I said, subscribe on my YouTube, all those great things. But I just, I'll get with it um, with the discussion for tonight is why you do not have, why you don't have, or why you do not have a sports scholarship. Top reasons why you may not have a sports scholarship. And we want you guys to get scholarships, and you will have opportunities to do so. But there's some things we have to discuss. Some things we have to have some real talk about. Some things, some action steps that you would have to take. Okay. So the top reasons why you might not be getting or why you don't have a sports scholarship, a college sports scholarship. Um, and this could be to your top school or any school for that matter. And so, as I said, I'm always speaking to the middle school kids and the high school kids, student athletes, and parents. And I just want to be sure that you guys understand there are some things that your student athlete has to do. Um, and so you're probably um, thinking that, man, my recruiting is not going the way I thought it was going to go. Right. And I know it can be disappointing. I know there's some frustrations or there's some things that maybe you're not really clear or understanding about the recruiting process. So that's why I have taken the time to develop this 10-week um, course on the recruiting process to help you master, to help you navigate, to help you understand, to help you to help empower you, to help you take control of your recruiting. That's what it's all about. You have to take charge. And even when you do, yet and still, maybe things may not always go the way you had hoped and dreamed it would go with your recruiting. For some guys, it's going great, and some young ladies, it may be going great, and you can't focus on what somebody else's recruiting is going like. You have to be sure that you get this information and that you get with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 and get with the 10-week digital course. And I'll be doing everything live. We'll be going one night a week, and it'll be on a Tuesday or Thursday night around 6:30 or 7 for no more than an hour. Maybe an hour. Things may go over, but the goal is to have it um, once a week for an hour. And so that is part of what you need to do. You have to do some things different. You can't keep doing the same things and expecting something different to happen. That's what we call insanity, right? That's what we call, being insane, because you're not going to get different results, okay, if you keep doing the same type type of thing, same type of stuff, right? If you're not dedicated and putting time in, and you've had people tell you, You've had coaches get on you, you know, about, are you dedicated enough? Are you willing to put in that extra time? I heard listening to some of the sports shows this morning while I was at work, doing some of the stuff on my computer. I have stuff up and I'm always listening. As I said, keep my ear, um, to the ground, listening about what's going on, whether it's in the college sports, high school sports, and even pro sports. Doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter if it's men or women's sports. Doesn't matter. Um, High school, college, pro. I'm into all of it and following it and listening to some of the other experts that are out there, that have, just like myself, have experiences playing at every level. Okay, and so you're just, getting yourself frustrated because maybe you haven't done everything that you were encouraged to do by a coach, parent, you know, whoever it might be that's in your corner trying to encourage you to stay the course. And as I was listening to one of the shows today, they talked about that very thing with the NBA having issues with what they call, uh, I guess, they're trying to get loading, or I forget it'll come to me, but pretty much they're just saying about how they, um, you know, try to manage and get rest, but people are paying, top dollar to come see these guys play, and they're missing like 20 something games. And the NBA came down on the players after some discussion, saying that if, in order for them to be considered for certain awards, which will put extra money in their pocket, bonuses and all these things in their pocket, they had to play at least 65 games. So out of 82 games, they got to play 65 games. And so there was a lot of discussion on whether that was fair, or, you had Draymond Green and some other players, speaking out against it, saying, that's not fair. Guys need rest. And yeah, I'm not gonna say guys don't need rest, but I don't think you should be missing 20 something games in a season, you know, um, in basketball. You can't play 82 games in football. You wouldn't be able to survive. People be broke up. You can't play 82 games of football. Um, and so in basketball, it is demanding. It's a contact sport. It's not a collision sport like football. You know, Volleyball, you're jumping up and down, so there's a lot of pounding and things like that, where you have knees and ankles that you have to be concerned with. Um, and well, I guess the term is called load management, is what I was trying to think of, guys. So that's what it was called, load management. And so, but I don't always want to go back and say what the guys did back in the day. We hear all that stuff enough, um, and about how Jordan and some of those guys, even when they got older, um, they didn't do a lot of load management. They didn't miss that many games. Jordan very seldom missed a game unless he did have an injury. You know, and I don't even know if he missed that many games. Um, it may have been once or twice in his long career where he may have missed 10 or 15 games or so, if that. So that's been a lot of discussion. And so that's why, you may be feeling like your recruiting is not going the way you would like. And you could be doing the things that you need to do. It's not always based on if you're dedicated, right? Because a lot of you guys are, young guys and young ladies are dedicated to your sport. You are putting in time, you know, um, but a lot of times the reason why you may not be getting some of the offers or pivot recruiting is because you don't have that exposure, right? And maybe you haven't gone to. I don't want you to all get caught up in going to a bunch of ranking camps and all that. I think it's good to go to maybe some of those, maybe a couple of times out of the year. But more than anything, guys, what's going to get you offers is you exposing yourself to the colleges and the universities. So whether you're a part of a group like Elite Talent Football with Coach Derek Tatum, that does an awesome job in putting on camps down there in Georgia and in the South. He does a lot of great things. I love following him and listening to him and some of his things, because he and I are like minded. We're like on the same page with some of these things, and so passionate about wanting kids so badly to fulfill their dream of going to the next level in whatever sport that is that you play, that you participate in. And so it, and you hear people use the term, "Oh, they're soft," this and that. It doesn't mean that soft physically, because the athletes today are much farther along than what we were growing up because of us, because we learned as your parents, right? And we taught you guys earlier in life than what we had, right? So that's why, we didn't have all these camps. But our generation learned from our mistake, to learn from not having coaches, some coaches really assisting us and helping us like some of them did. And some of us did have coaches who did a great job, right? But there's a lot of families and parents that don't understand how this recruiting process works. And it even filters in when guys go to the pros, and you got guys who don't even have a draft grade on them that they're going to get a chance in comparison to a guy who does have a draft grade on him. Sometimes players are looking for the same things that a guy that's going to be drafted are getting, and that's not you know, some players can't get some of the other things that a guy that is getting drafted. That as an agent, you will get a return on your investment, because this athlete in whatever sport, whether it's basketball, football, doesn't matter, has a beeline to making a pro team. Okay, he or she has a beeline and being on a pro team. So when an agent puts out money, he knows he's going to get a return, because hey, he's investing in his athlete, because this athlete chose this agent to represent them for whatever reason, however they got there, doesn't matter. But if you have a draft grade on you, then an agent's not making tons of money. We can get into some of that later, but hey, everybody is in a business to make money and to help themselves. So you got to always find people that are genuine, and that although they are making money, and you're making money, but you still find people who genuinely care about you, and there are people out there who genuinely care about you. you know it's crazy if you think that an agent shouldn't make money if he's spending time and helping negotiate, and making sure, if you're a high prospect, that you have the opportunity to go to the next level, and they're going to invest and make sure you get the right care, and try to teach you and educate you on the business of whatever pro sport you're playing, and make sure you get everything out of that pro sport that you deserve. That's what the agent's job is, to make sure you get paid, and for his or her time that they put in to help represent you. Of course, they should be compensated. Exactly. You know, but as I was saying earlier, sometimes, because of these things start young, at a young age. If you're not taught, right, and a lot of people haven't been taught, a lot of people don't know and understand. You got to get somebody that you vetted and that you trust, and that has your best interest at hand, that cares about you, whether it be a family member, or a friend to the family that knows the business, or has been in the business um, for quite a long time, and maybe they've even played, or whatever the case. But there's a lot of misinformation that's out there. And then sometimes, because you've gone through middle school sports and high school sports and college, and not totally getting all the correct information, some guys, you know, think that, oh well, I know I'm getting a chance. I know I don't have a draft grade on me, but I want to go I want you this kind of money, blah blah. And that's not how it works, right? So you can't get so focused on what somebody else is getting. You got to stay focused on what you need to do to have your opportunity to come full ahead, right? And so I know it's frustrating. I've been there, right? I know exactly how that feels. And so I'm here to help you get through that, you know, where I didn't have anybody to talk to necessarily that understood it. Most of the people I was talking to was going through it just like I was, and trying to learn and figure out how this stuff works. Okay. And so that's why, with Love the Game 24/7 and a 10-week digital course, that's my desire has always been, man, when I get to a certain point, I want to be able to help people understand how to navigate through this, to try to eliminate as much frustration as possible. You're always going to have some things you got to go through. Everybody has their road to get to where they want to be. But you can't get so caught up on how somebody else recruiting is going, or how somebody else professional career is going, or how much what kind of contract that she got, or what kind of contract I got. You can't get caught up in some of that, because if you do, you won't be able to focus on what you need to do for yourself to make your opportunity excel and be better or greater. Okay, so um, like I said, you gotta be sure that you focus on what you need to do. That's why I'm telling you now, we got to start at middle school age, because you can tell right now with some kids in middle school age if they have the ability, right? If they're like some of the best athletes out there in their groups of teams that they play with, there are certain kids that excel that are there. And if we don't harness that and get a hold of that, and you get some right information, mom and dad, on how to, um, you know, um, have your student athlete matriculate through the system and be able to get the scholarships, or at least make sure you get some sort of scholarship opportunities. And sometimes it doesn't happen because it's a lack of information or a lack of investing um, further into your student athlete. Because there are some kids out there, I don't care, that I've seen, doesn't matter what race or gender or anything, that, I've seen some sports. I'm like, man, she's good. Or I was just watching a video of a young lady back at my high school, um, uh, at Lakewood High School in St. Petersburg, Florida. Coach Tunsil, we grew up together. Coach Tunsil played basketball at Iowa. She was one of the top rated um, recruits coming out in the nation when she came. I think Nicole was either with same year or a year behind me. I know we were right there neck and neck, either together or a year behind me. But she was one of the most top recruited athletes, male or female. The girl, Coach Tunsil, you hear me shouting out, giving you a shout out. But Coach Tunsil was a beast. She always played basketball with us from middle school all the way through high school. We would have games in the morning. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears early in the morning playing ball, and Nicole would be right out there with us. And that's how she got so good in her game, because she played with the boys. But she was tall for a girl at her young age, and she could ball. And she learned that by playing with the boys all the time. And she held her own. I'm just be real with you. She held her own. And so she was able to get a scholarship to the University of Iowa, and then played some pro basketball overseas. And now she's coaching back at our high school. And she put out a video of one of her girls recently. And what this young lady, I don't know what grade she's in, but she's a beast. Her ball handling skills, her shooting skills, her knowledge of dishing the ball and passing it, and all those different things. She know how to score the ball. She know how to help create things for other people. And so, just watching her, I know this young lady is Division 1. Okay, so there's no doubt about it. That's what I'm saying. You'll be able to see some kids and pick up on and say, "Oh man, this," especially at the high school level, and she's balling like she is. I'm like, she's already got it, And sometimes you can see that. Sometimes you can see it, and some kids just need more developing, right? They need to get in the weight on the weights, right? I don't care if you're male or female. You need to, have some proper weight training and other things. And I'll get into more of that. But as I said, you may be disappointed because your recruiting is not going like somebody else. And you probably know you're just as good, if not better than that person. But maybe that person did some better things than you. And that's why their recruiting is going where it is. Maybe they've gotten themselves in a position where they've gained more exposure. And you might need to go talk to them and ask them, you know, hey, what are you doing? You know, and generally going just, hey, I like to know and learn what it is that you've done to help yourself with your recruiting, because I need to do some of that. Maybe I'm missing it. And sometimes that's the case. Maybe you haven't put yourself out there, and that's why your recruiting is not going the way it is, because you haven't put yourself in places where you can gain exposure. And you may be doing some of those things, but I'm telling you, there's still some things that you're probably not doing that I learned this. And, in talking to the track coach at the college, at the university today, I talked to him today. I usually see him on campus doing tours, and found out he was a track coach, and we got to talking a little bit. And like he said, I asked him, like, um, do you answer emails when recruits? He's like, oh yeah, man. He's like, that's one of the best ways to get coaches is to email them. And there's ways to get the emails, right? And coaches prefer that a lot of times. Of course, you can DM them, and that's great. And sometimes the coaches will DM you back and DM you their email, their direct email. And if they do, you need to make sure you stay consistent. It's not something you got to hit them up every day, but at least once a week, you might want to reach out to them. And maybe you got some new video of your game that you're playing. And this is for any student, male or female. You have to do your part. And if you don't know what to do, that's why you need to get with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 and purchase the 10-week digital course, so I can walk you parents through to know exactly what you need to do to help your student athlete gain the exposure that they need. Right? I tell you about how you should use camps. to help gain your exposure. We're going to get into those things. Tell you about how you need to train, right? Tell you about what kind of nutrition you should have. There's going to be some great benefits. It's not just talking and hearing me talk. It's going to be answering questions from you, student athletes and parents, all those different things, but also giving you some solid information on how to help you develop your game in whatever game, sport you participate in. You know, you have to be dedicated in it, okay? And you need to use your gift because there's a small window of opportunity that one day that gift is going to be gone. That talent is going to dwindle away as you get older, and you want to be able to get everything out of that talent. Okay, I don't care if it's book talent because you're bright and smart as heck, and there are academic scholarships and merit scholarships that will sometimes pay for your full education. But because I'm talking about sports, I'm talking to you student athletes who need to make sure you stay on top of your grades. Nobody says you have to make all A's and all B's and all that stuff, but you should have some A's and B's. You might have some C's in there, and that's cool. That's no big deal. That means you're still getting it, but you shouldn't have D's or F's because you guys know what it takes to be dedicated, to be great at your sport, to be highly sought after, to be recognized. And you got to take that same energy, that same effort that you put in your sport, that you put in relationships and having good relationships with your teammates and coaches, family, doesn't matter. You got to put that same energy that you put in to loving your game 24/7. Okay. Because you got a goal in mind. You have an end point, right? Or a starting point to start your career. Okay. And so you don't want to lose out on the blessing of that gift and talent that you have in your sport and not use it to help pay you some dividends, right? Getting your education taken care of. Possibly a nil opportunity, who knows? But that the nil shouldn't be as much as your of your focus as getting that, making sure you put yourself in place to get a scholarship. Because more than likely, if you put yourself in place to get a scholarship, you're going to potentially put yourself in place to get some NIL opportunities. Okay, and so you got to just be sure you focus on what you need to do. Okay, learn how to appreciate other people's success, other people's great opportunities. Right, and I know we always say team over me. Absolutely, it is team over me, but you got to be a great individual. You got to work on being a great individual so that you can be a great teammate. Okay, and when you do that, you will reap some benefits. Okay, and so you got to just make sure that you're probably not getting some of these scholarship opportunities because of things where you got your focus in the wrong area, or you're not really putting in the time that you need to put in to it. Okay, because there's always something kind of missing. I didn't always do everything, great, but as soon as I found out or learned that there's something I can do to help myself develop better, I was all in. I was all in. You know, so there were some things where I didn't always do things great, but I had some people around me who did know better, people that I looked up to, who were having some success and coming back and telling us younger guys, our younger generation, hey man, this is what you guys need to do to get to where I'm at, or even at a higher level than what they were, right? And so that's what it's all about. So you know, don't get so frustrated. And sometimes, even though your recruiting might not go the way it does, it doesn't mean that's it's the end either. Okay, just because it may not be going the way you want it to doesn't mean it's the end. Okay, you guys got to learn that it's not the end because things um um because you're not getting the scholarship offers coming in like you hope they would. Okay, so you got to be sure that you stay focused on what you have to do. Okay, so that's some one of the top reasons as to why you're not getting um, scholarship offers, because maybe your focus is not where it needs to be, or because you're down about your recruiting not going the way you want it to. But you got to get yourself some exposure. You got to get with Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 in a 10-week digital course, because that going through this course, we're going to help empower you. Right? It's all about helping you empower you, and you taking control. You can't. There's some great coaches out there, and there's some not so great coaches out there. But you don't put everything in somebody else's hands. It's in your hands. You're the athlete. Take control of your destiny. Okay, it's not anybody else's responsibility as much as it is you as a student athlete, and then your parents got to be involved. Okay, and everybody needs some. Some student athlete may be a little more developed than you are. You know, um, it has nothing to do with whether they are smart or bright. There's some student athletes, hey, They might be C students, but when you put them on there, when you put her or you put him out there in their element in their sport, they know it. They know they're so well developed because they love it, right? But they still have to learn how to dedicate themselves to make sure they make the right grades and test scores that they need to be able to still remain on that court, on that volleyball court, on that softball field, on that baseball field, that football field, the basketball court, or the lacrosse. You know, you got to make sure you take care of your business so it can pay you some dividends down the road one day. And one of the main things that we want kind of dividend that we want to pay is you getting a scholarship to help take care of the bulk of your education load and not have it on your parents because they've already put that investment in you, okay, when you were in middle school because they saw that you were good um, in a certain sports, in a specific sport or multiple sports, okay. So that's what it's all about, okay. And then and that's a good segue right there to go into my next top reason as to why some of you all don't have scholarship offers, okay. And that is some of you all have to make sure you buy in and be and play multiple sports, okay. And you got to make sure um, that you use or recognize, I should say, how playing multiple sports will increase your scholarship opportunities. So some of you all are too sport specific and you're not doing anything else to help you develop. You're just so um, overindulged in one sport. And it's okay. I love football. Football was my love. All right. But I fell in love with track because I started to realize as I got older how much track benefited me to be a better football player. I never got tired. I could run all day. Some of my teammates will tell you right now. I could go all day. And that was because of years of me playing football. Sometimes basketball I played here and there when I was younger. But when I got older and got into uh, high school, I played 1 year high school basketball JV. I wish I would have kept playing because I love just being around the guys. But football was my main thing. So, but I continued to run track. I wasn't gonna not do another sport. But I realized as I got older in high school how much track and field was helping me. Okay, and so and track and field is a sport that I think that will help a student athlete excel in their sport specific, right? Or their specific sport. So take a volleyball player. They got to have a good vertical, right? Just like basketball. But volleyball, those girls spiking the ball, they want to get up high above that net so they can drive that ball and get a good angle on the ball. But what sport do you think that can help them with their vertical? Long jump and triple jump, high jump, right? If I need to have a vertical as a good volleyball player, female volleyball player, and even for some of the guys that play volleyball, right? You need to have a good vertical. You need to have good body control when you're playing volleyball and you're trying to leap in the air and spike the ball. Well, guess what's going to help you develop that agility and that balance and that body control? Oh, well, if you go do track and field and learn how to do the long jump or the triple jump or the high jump, okay, you have to use those similar skills that you can use that you need for volleyball, even though you might love volleyball. Man, let me tell you something. My son, when he was going through his recruiting, and one of the first things the head coach asked, "What other sport do you play?" You know, like man, it's great. And he was in starting pitching rotation in high school. They went to the state tournament. I think his junior senior year should have won it. I think his junior they had such a good team. I think they lost by 1 point in the championship, and I thought they would win it. But he was a part of that pitching rotation. He played center field. He had the speed for stealing bases and all of that stuff. Right? He had a strong arm because he was a quarterback. He can throw the ball from center field. And hit home plate. Sometimes. So that helped develop his arm strength. You know, helped develop his skill on how to control the football and how to control the baseball. Right? Now I wish I would have put him in track, but they like baseball. So I was just happy that it was doing something else and taking a break from football. Sometimes you got to take a break from your specific sport and do something else. Okay. You have to do that sometimes, give yourself a break. And you don't go jump right into working with your trainer or jump right into that next sport. Sometimes you got to take you at least a week, week and a half to 2 weeks when you end one sport And if the coach, if you have a good coach, they're going to allow you to do that. They should, especially when you just left a sport. You can't just come run out there. When I would leave track practice and run over to spring football, my coach, wouldn't let us get in contact drills, but I would do all the other stuff. When we did walkthrough, when we were doing, putting in installation for plays, all those types of things. And I wasn't going to miss football practice because I wasn't going to let anybody get a head start on me in the running back position. Because we had talent, growing up in Florida, there's talent all over the place. Right. So I wasn't going to miss out and not have an edge, on anybody. So I get myself over to track practice. Because spring football in Florida was starting as track season was ending. So we still had maybe a few meets. If you went to state and regionals and all those things, you still had to practice track. So you know in that situation, I would still go over to football. And so if I didn't make state, I think I made regionals every year from 10th grade on, but had opportunities to make state, but I pulled my muscle one year, pulled my hamstring. But anyway, um, I just recognized how track and field benefited me to be a better athlete overall. And like I said, when the coach asked my son, "What are the sports you play?" He kind of like, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's what your dad been telling you." And when you can excel at multiple sports, that makes you much more attractive to colleges in your specific sport and other sports. And then it's all about giving yourself, guys, options, options, so you can get your education paid for. That's what it's about. You want options, right? And possibly in those options can possibly put some money in your pocket as well. Okay. So don't sit here and say, well, especially some of the girls, and I grew up, I couldn't believe how talented some of the girls that we had in high school that didn't go off to college with scholarships. Well, I know one reason why they didn't, because they didn't really get encouragement from the coach, or from the coaches, or information about how to go to college and get a track scholarship. It was just, with just, unless a coach popped up or something. But you know, I think we may have had one or two girls that went on track scholarship, but we had way more girls in high school that should have gone on track scholarships and could have saved themselves money for their education. And then and some of the girls sometimes just seem like, well, I just lost my desire for it. And you can't do that. And parents, that's where you got to step in. You got a child that has a gift or a talent, whether male or female in the sport, you got to encourage them. And you also got to let them know, hey, we're trying to save some money, right? We got to have retirement. Okay. We got to take care of you and your other siblings as well. If you have other siblings. But you got to think like that. Man, how can I relieve my parents on some of this? And I'm really good at this sport. And sometimes the reason what happens is some kids, it comes so easy to some kids, and they may have lost their love for it, right? But when you go look at that bill for college education, maybe it'll change your mind to love that sport. So that's why parents, you got to get kids in there and sit them down when they're young and do college visits so that you can start seeing, oh, what's the cost? You can easily go on a website and put in cost of attendance at any college and university, and pull up their website and put in the search box cost of attendance, and it'll show you in the current academic year how much it is for an in-state student and how much it is for an out-of-state student. So you can easily get that information and sit down with your child and say, okay, look what tuition costs for in-state, and look what it is for out-of-state. Look what it costs for meal plans and for housing. All these things, books, supplies. Okay, you can easily go get that information, start sitting your kids down. I don't care what economic situation you're in, it doesn't matter. I don't want to hear those excuses, parents. Oh, I don't have the money. No, you need to be encouraging them to use that gift and talent they've been blessed to have to pay them some dividends, and possibly help take care of their family and launch their family into a whole nother economic realm that you probably never thought you would be in. Okay, so but we have to take it one step at a time. We got to start, we got to start here. Okay, young in middle school, we got to harness it in, right? We got to make sure that you're not spoiling your kids, and coaches aren't letting them get over on stuff just because they're the best player on the team. No, we're not doing any of that stuff. You got to help keep the young people's minds focused. My wife's uh, a nurse for 30 something years with a master's degree and things that she's in, and always talks about, like, hey, the reason why some of these young kids do some of the things is not that they're just wild and crazy. Just especially when you're dealing with boys, the front part of our brain that helps us reason is not told to develop. So when you give him a young 22-year-old and he's a hot draft pick and he has millions of dollars, and you haven't taught him at a young age, and how to harness him in and learn how to tell him, hey, no, little Johnny or little Betty, you can't do certain things. And we always know, we hear girls mature faster than boys, and that's true. And that's why you see a lot of times the young boys, not saying girls don't get in stuff, because they get in their stuff too, but some of the crazy stuff like driving fast and speeding and all this crazy stuff, that you shouldn't be doing. And as soon as you hear about the age, my wife said, hey, I understand. I've been in the nursing field and understand that, hey, how if parents don't get involved and raise your young men a certain way to not do certain things, they're going to go out and do things because they're going to test it and see if they can feel like you're invincible when you're a young man. You know, and it's not like it's a bad thing. We just have to harness it in and make sure you get around people that's gonna not afraid to tell you no. Just because you might be a top draft pick or whatever in the family and this and that you need to have some family around you to tell you, no, no young man, no young lady, that's not smart, that's not wise. You got a great opportunity. I've had to have those talks with both my sons, you know. But as far as the son that plays sports, there was times I said, there's certain things, man, you just can't do because you have a gift, you have a talent that could possibly take you and you know, launch you and put you in a better place than I ever could have been in, you know. And so I'm like, hey, and both of them, I just said, there's some things, man, you got goals. You said you want to go as far as you can go in this sport, and I'm gonna make sure you're gonna get there, and you got to listen to what I'm telling you. And sometimes it was hard. Sometimes he didn't want, sometimes he wanted to, pout and complain about why I can't go to the party. Okay. Well, if you want to go to the party and you want to just throw away your opportunity because there's sometimes it's just not meant for you to be. And there were times where he had gone somewhere because I don't believe in sheltering kids, that they need to learn how to make mistakes. Okay. And there's a time that you got to let them learn, you know, because they're going to be away from you in college and they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do. So you got to learn how to, reel them out slowly, and you let them get a little taste of this and that and make some mistakes here and there. They don't have to make major mistakes, right? But when he said, hey, this is what I want to do, okay, now you tell me you want to do it, then you got to buy into the process and let it let it manifest. And you got to put some work in, and you got to decide, do I really want to do this? And if you do, this is what it takes. Now, you're 5 years in to your career in the NFL and have been blessed to make, some decent money from it. Even though, hey, it's a risk in everything we do. My father risked his life working at General Electric, you know, and because of the environment he worked in around, chemicals and certain things, you know, um, it caused him to get sick and pass away from cancer at a young age. When I was a freshman in high school, and that job was very risky. It wasn't football. It was a very risky job. But he was willing to do that to help take care of his family and put his family in a better position financially than he ever was growing up. Right. And it did that, you know. Um, and so that's the thing. So when you have a student athlete and you telling me that you love this sport and you starting to recognize there's some dividends that can help pay for your education, you got to do some things, and there's some things you can't do. Okay. But you got to play uh do other multiple sports to help you develop. That's how it should be looked at, right? And like I said, when your one sport ends and you get ready to go into another sport, you got to be sure that you give your body rest before you start that other sport, and then before you jump into doing the other sport. Okay. There's a thing called proper rest. You just can't, you know, just um, you have to be careful. And you can't just go run off to your trainer doing some training. You can't listen to all these guys, right? That's why I say you got to vet people. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a trainer and you shouldn't pay for them. Yeah, you should, but they also should respect the fact that you just got finished with the season in one sport, and you just can't jump tomorrow doing that next sport and training. Okay, give your body a break. Give your body a rest. Okay, And I'm not saying rest long, because you don't need to rest too long, because you're active and you're young and you can handle it. But you do need to give your body a rest for about a week or two, so a week and a half, when you move from one sport to another. Okay, and maybe do some swimming if you got a pool somewhere. Learn how to help heal your body from one thing. Getting a sauna, do some different things, but you still got to do it. Like, you don't need to do any heavy lifting, that kind of thing. You might do a little bit of light lifting once or twice during that time that you're taking a little break, so you don't lose too much. You probably go do a little bit of jogging or something like that, just to stay loose. Not much, maybe once or twice a week, but you really want to mainly get a little bit of rest, you know, somewhere between a week or two. And this, and if a coaches need to be, don't be a disservice to your young student athletes. Okay. You know, you're in a very influential position as a coach, and coaches, you got to learn how not to be selfish because of what you want for your sport. And this young lady or young man leaving one sport and get ready to come to you. They're coming to you. So don't do a disservice to your young athlete. Okay. It's our job as coaches to teach them to be responsible and how to be responsible and taking care of themselves. Okay. And so I hold you coaches responsible as well. You have a part in this too. And so you make sure you take care of your young student athlete, the young impressionable minds. Okay. Um, because we know coaches can be selfish too. You're human, but you got to make sure you're looking out for the best interest of your student athlete. Okay. And mom and dad, you got to be involved. You don't have to be a jerk to the coach or anything like that. Learn how to respect each other, because it's all about the young student athlete that has a great opportunity ahead of them, that we're responsible for helping them get there. So let's make sure we take care of our young people like we should be doing, because a lot of us are not doing a good job of that. Okay. And I'm pretty sick and tired of it. And that's why I just said, hey, it's time for me to do something, step my game up in helping people. Okay, so you got to make sure you vet people. You got to make sure that you find out everything you can about them to make sure that they're legitimate and they're not just taking your money from you or anything like that. That you're getting, you need to be able to weigh the results. Okay, and like I said, you do your multiple sports, and like I said, some of you guys, the reason why you don't, you're not as fast as you should be is because you're not running track anymore. You're not doing track and field anymore. I heard Coach Tatum. I was like, and I told him, I said, Coach Tatum, you preaching to the choir when you sent that message out the other day, because most of the 4x1 and 4x2 and 4x4 relay teams, it was mainly the football players. You don't see that too much anymore like you should. It still exists somewhat, just like I was watching my old school Clearwater Central Catholic playing against Chaminade from South Florida. You know, a large part of why there was such a distinct difference between my team CCC, and that Chaminade team. The number one athlete in this class was a wide receiver that's 6'3", 6'4". The boy runs like a deer, but he's a 300-meter state champion. He's a sprinter. He runs track. And I heard the commentator say that during the championship game about all these guys on the team that run track, because it makes you develop faster. You learn how to have better body control. You learn how to deal with things. So when you do, there's just something about track and field that works the whole body, and that can help you in, even soccer. Guys are, and girls are running around on the soccer field. You always see them with nice, firm thigh muscles and calf muscles, because they're always on the running on their toes, right, and cutting and stopping, and jumping and doing different things. That's another sport, a good sport. Wrestling is good for, like I said, for football players, and especially offense and defensive linemen, and the shot put in the discus. These are things that Love the Game 24/7 comes to you about, and help you understand why these things are good, to help you get more exposure, to help you develop more, to help you gain more opportunity and exposure to get scholarships. So these are some reasons that if you're not doing this is some of the reasons of why you don't have some offers, because your development is not totally there. You want to be able to dominate in whatever sport you're in. And when you can excel in multiple sports, you become much more attractive to college recruiters in your sport, your specific sport, you know. And so those are some things that you guys got to consider, um, and you got to make sure that when you arrive to where you want to be. Now, granted, you may not have the scholarship that you thought you were going to have, but you have some scholarship offers, right? And that's where you want it to be. You want it to be somewhere where you have some pretty decent offers that you could that you can accept. And when you arrive there, like I have in my notes here, when you arrive where you want to be, you have to continue to exert that same energy or fire to keep you there. All right. Once you get that scholarship and step on that campus, you got to exert that same fire, that same energy that got you the scholarship offers when you were in high school to make you dominant when you get to college. And you got to keep that same mindset, guys, and continue developing your skill. Okay. Now, usually when you get to college, you know, you may not be able to do another sport. I know that that can happen sometimes, especially at some of these top schools. You know, but to me, if I were you, if I was a football player still coming to high school, like I said, I did track and field all 4 years in college. I was on football scholarship for most of my education, but I still kept running track. Coach Jim Lovett from University of South Florida, from back home in St. Pete, started USF. He recruited one of my older brothers and myself to Morningside College in Sioux City, Iowa. Right, um, and and because of that, he was also our head track coach and defensive coordinator. And he always tried to encourage guys to come over to the track. And he got some of the offensive linemen to come over to throw the shot put when you got to spin and throw the discus and and kick back like you're doing a pass block technique with the shot put. You want to develop being if I had a son that played offensive line, he would be throwing the shot, putting the discus all the time to work on his development to be a good tackle so he can make some big money. One day playing NFL. If I had a son that was offensive lineman, that's what he would be doing, and he'd probably be wrestling. But like I said, you have to have some breaks in between there before you get started in those multiple sports. But you gotta, like I said, when you arrive where you want to be, you got to keep that same. You got to exert that same energy and effort and fire. That's that's what's going to keep you there and keep you developing and being a top college ball player. In whatever it's sport. Male or female, top baller in your sport, in basketball, softball, doesn't matter, baseball, soccer. You know, um, and so you know, you always. I don't know if you recognize this. Most if a track athlete didn't play football that much, it's harder for them to make that transition from track and field to football. But when you have football guys that play football and run track, it's not hard for a football guy to transition from football to track if he wanted to, if he or she wanted to. But a football player for guys that play tackle football, it's not hard for a football athlete who's run track. If they put that effort in, you will see a lot of times they could be world class sprinters. And if they want to not play football and just strictly focus on track, they could make the transition. But it's a lot harder for track athletes who didn't play football that much, if at all, for them to make the transition. I don't know why that is, but when you're a football player and you play multiple sports, and track and field is one of your sports as a football player, or you're a basketball player, male or female basketball player, and you also participated in track and field, it's easy for you guys. It's not hard for you to go from basketball to track if you've done both of those sports most of your life, right? But if you were just strictly a track person and didn't play other sports, it's kind of hard to make that transition, you know. Um, but we see it all. I've seen it for years. Like I said, I've watched this thing. I've been a part of it. If I wanted to be a world class sprinter, I could have. If I'd have put that same time and effort I put in with football. It wasn't hard for me when I got in track and field to excel and do well, right? But some of these track athletes who are just strictly just really good track athletes, um, if they never participated in another sport, sometimes it's hard for them to make that transition. But that's why I say, it's all about you trying to develop yourself. So this is why you may not have some of the offers. You know, you got to take control. You got to listen to the people like myself who've been there and done that and got a T-shirt. Okay, I'm a NCC conference champion in the 4x4 relay in college in Division II. You know, I used to hate running 400 meters. Man, it got to the point when I got to college, I fell in love with running the 400 and the 200 meters. You know, you can run. I ran 47, 46 range. Okay, so in 400 meters, now I could have done better if I would have put more focus. I don't doubt I could have got down to 44, 45 second forward. In a 400 meter if I'd have had the opportunity. Because football took up some of that time, so I couldn't always put that effort in like I wanted to, and like I could have, because I just love football more. But like I said, I realized track helped me, and I could go to track and compete. I could go to track and push some guys who were strictly track guys. I could give them a run for their money on a lot of occasions. But if you come over here to football, no, that's my domain. Mm-mm, you know, and and so, but I had 4.29, 4.3 speed. That's what I ran, you know, in college. And when I got to the pros, I got clocked at that, hand and electronic. you know. So um, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I know it helped develop me. So and like I said, another thing, nutrition. My wife used to get mad with me with the high school because sometimes the kids wouldn't, kids would have early lunch in high school and didn't bring, you got football practice, you got basketball practice, you got track practice, you got baseball practice, and you guys eating junk and you wonder why you aren't performing well. Sometimes you're not performing well because of what you put in your body. I know Chad Ochocinco. I get tired of him talking about he eat McDonald's. Yeah, well, he's one of the few people that can eat some McDonald's. He's thin as a rail. Anyway, he was a baller. I ain't taking nothing from him. Chad could run some routes and he had some hands. And he definitely had speed. South Florida kid. But I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that you can eat McDonald's. Chad better stop telling them lies about. He might be McDonald's, but he gonna have a price to pay eating at McDonald's. All right. But you got to make sure, mom and dad, and even the coaches, like and we eventually changed what we were doing because there's some things like, we used to wonder like, man, why are the kids kind of flat? My wife would ask me, what did y'all give them at halftime? And she said, don't stop, talk to coach and stop that mess. Stop giving them that. Have the banana, have some oranges, right? Have the electrolyte Gatorade stuff at halftime. Okay. And then when they get team meals, before game pregame meals, she's like, take that sugar out of there. Get rid of the chips, get rid of the cookies. We having spaghetti or baked chicken, that kind of thing, protein, stuff like that you need before a pregame meal. But let the cake and cupcakes and all that other stuff be for after the game. Okay. So then they can come Sunday or Monday, they can run that stuff off. But don't give them cupcakes and cookies and all that stuff. My wife was like, look, she used to start coming. It's like, look, you got to tell the coach, stop getting mad with the boys because they look flat starting the game out because you gave them sugar before the game during pregame meal, and sugar takes you up and drops you back down when it wears off, right? So you got to make sure you're smart about nutrition. That's why my wife used to make my son a turkey wrap and put it on ice in an ice lunchbox. So she's like, yeah, eat your lunch, eat the school lunch, but put this in your locker. So an hour or so before practice, you need to munch down that little turkey and lettuce, wrap that she would make for him. So he would be ready and not be flat when he got to football practice or baseball practice, right? Because they ate lunch at like 10:30 or 11 because he was first lunch or whatever it was, right? And then football practice is at 3 o'clock, and you haven't had anything to eat since 12, or 11 o'clock, 11:30, because you may have had an early lunch period or whatever the case. So she would like get on him and say, look, put this in your locker. So if you had a chance to run to your locker before your last period, because that's a couple hours before football, hour and a half, couple hours before football practice starts, you need to munch down that turkey wrap, right? And some peanut butter and celery or peanut butter crackers or something like that, and some water. And like I said, pregame meals. Mom and dad, you got to get on these coaches about, like I said, pregame meals, get rid of the sugar, get rid of dessert. They don't need dessert. Save it for after the game. When they play the game, have it in a locker room for them after the game. But don't have that stuff. Don't have that sweet stuff, chips and all that stuff before the game. And sometimes you athletes are wondering why you didn't perform as well as you should have, and your video is not looking, like anything. You know. Well, I'm getting ready to have to sign off. IG is getting ready to shut down on me. But I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Remember, I'm going to be live every day next week starting Tuesday, and I'm going to have my son Jeff Smith II with the Cardinals and Lucas Dennis with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to have them to help be on here and talk about their recruiting. All right, guys. Peace. Appreciate you joining me tonight. All love.